Good afternoon, my lovely viewers. We back on the journey to the sainthood on this lovely show, Echoing the Saints. And I am Akoto Samuel, your host for the day. And I have with me our guest speaker who would give us a brief introduction about himself.
I am Francis Nyantakyi Champong, a seminarian of St. Paul's Catholic Seminary in Philosophy 1 and from the Catholic Diocese of Koforidua.
Our guest speaker, Francis Nyantakyi Echampo, you are welcome to our show, Echoing the
Much.
Saints, Journey to the Sainthood. I would like to be a saint someday, but before that, I would like to know the stages involved in this sainthood. So, can you elaborate or take us through how saints are chosen or canonized in the Catholic Church?
Thank you very much, Mr. Host. Before I move on to the criteria for choosing who a saint is, I would like us to refresh our minds on who a saint is. In a very simple way, a saint is a person, ordinary like you and I, but those who lead ordinary life in an extraordinary way, and they are believed to be in heaven. So when you talk of the criteria for choosing a saint, the Catholic Church has specific criteria to determine if someone qualifies to be a saint. Just as in our local traditions we have it, when a person dies, the life that he or she lived here on earth helps the person to earn the attribute an ancestor. So the first criteria I would like to talk about is for the person to live a heroic, virtuous life. So when you say a heroic, virtuous life, what do you mean? From the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, when you say heroic, we mean an extremely impressive courage. A virtue is a commendable character. So merging the two definitions, we can explain a heroic, virtuous life as living an extremely impressive life that is commendable. Talking of saints who lived a heroic, virtuous life, we can mention a few of them, which includes Saint Teresa of Calcutta, who devoted her life to the service of the poor and the sick in Calcutta. So the next criteria I would like to talk about is martyrdom. Martyrdom is a witness to faith and love of God in an extreme, as we heard in the first one, this one too in an extreme way. So when you talk of martyrdom, we can talk of Saint Irenaeus and then Saint Agatha, who witnessed to the faith and love of God with their own blood. The last criteria I would like to talk about is miracles. When we talk of miracles as a criteria for choosing a saint, we mean that some miracles should be attributed to the intercession of that saint. For example, we can talk about Saint John Paul II, who was canonized after two miracles were attributed to him. The first invoked the healing of a French nun with Parkinson's disease, and the second was the inexplicable healing of a woman with a brain disease. Both healings were attributed to his intercession. So these are the few out of the many I'd like to talk about today.
Oh, okay. Mr. Francis Nyantakyi, if I got you right, I have to work some miracles if I die before I could be made a saint in the Catholic Church. That's wonderful. Okay, if I meet all these criteria you've outlined, what processes has my mortal remains got to go through before I finally become a saint after all the criteria you've mentioned, though few?
That's a very nice question to ask. The first and initial stage that your mortal remains has to go through is the servant of God stage. So when we talk of the servant of God stage, we mean that your local bishop should first gather informations, should gather evidences of your life, how you lived your life here on earth. So as I was talking, you heard it, that you must first live a life of extreme commendable character. So your local bishop should first gather evidences that when you were here on earth, you lived a life that was commendable. After the bishop has gathered all the necessary information about your life, he will then send it to Rome for further investigation. And then the Pope will have to give you the title of venerable. So when the local bishop sends the evidences to Rome, a group of theologians will have to sit on your evidences and then go through and then recommend you to the Pope, who will then give you the title of venerable. So the second stage is the attainment of the title venerable. So after attaining the title of venerable, a miracle should be worked by the saints or the saints to be canonized. So when I say the saints to be canonized, the saints in the process of canonization. So that stage is also called beatification, which is the stage I am about to talk about. Beatification is a stage typically requiring an evidence. When you say an evidence, at least one that is attributed to the candidate's intercession. So after the miracle has been reported, you will then send experts. So when you say experts, like scientists, doctors, and other people to go and investigate the miracle. So after investigation and upon recommendation by the congregation of the causes of saints, the Pope will now declare you as blessed. So we have Blessed Clementina. So the fourth and final stage of the canonization process is the canonization itself. So when we talk of canonization stage also requires that a miracle should be reported of the candidate's intercession. So after the miracle has been reported, as we did for the beatification, experts and then theologians will go and then investigate again the miracle. And then upon final recommendation, the Pope will now declare the candidates as a saint. As you are aspiring to be a saint, you should first go through the servant of God stage, the venerable stage, the beatification stage, which is the blessed, and then finally the canonization stage, which is when you attain the title saint. Thank you very much.
So, Master Francis, if I got you right, just for me to become a saint someday, I must live heroic virtues in my life and work some miracles after my death, suffer martyrdom. Then I'll be a candidate for sainthood. And even that is not all. I have to first pass through the stage of servants of God, where my bishop has to send evidence of my life to the Pope. Then I am made venerable upon that evidence, then beatified after investigations by experts. Then if I qualify with a miracle or based on my intercession, I am finally canonized as a saint. It is not easy at all, I can see, becoming a saint in the Catholic Church. Okay, we're thankful for your visit to our show today. We've gained a lot of insights on what you've told us again about how to become a saint and the stages involved. Many guests before you have led us through who a saint is, what the saint does, and now you've given us what is needed for us to become a saint. But before we leave the show, do you have something to tell our audience?
So my message to the people of God out there is very simple. Since people, ordinary people like you and I were able to do it, we also can attain the title saint. Thank you all.
Lovely viewers, we've had an exquisite experience today, knowing how saints are chosen and the stages involved in becoming a saint. I would love you to continue subscribing to our channel, Echoing the Saints, so that we will journey together to the sainthood. So see you next time, the same time Thursday. Bye bye.